So my name is Brandy. I'm going to be telling you guys about genetic mutations. So as far as mutations go, there's two ways to actually genetically modify people. There is the most common way that people know about, which is in vitro, one we talked about in class. And that one is actually taking the genes that you want and putting them in the egg before it goes into the mama. And this one is more popular because it works better. As far as what they're doing with testing, this one is working better because you can actually pick things like, oh, I want it to be a boy or a girl, and you can use this. And it's not only more popular, but it works better than the second option, which is gene therapy. And that is where you actually take a strand of DNA. Usually they do this for diseases, like if you have damaged genes, they'll take a strip of DNA that you have wrong, and they'll usually use a virus. They'll put it inside a virus, and then the virus goes inside your body, and it attaches to the DNA that's wrong and fixes it for you. This is the way that they're actually looking at to do genetic modifications, thinking like, oh, well, if we put this gene in that is for strength, you can like inject it into yourself, and that would presumably change what you are for strength. But this one doesn't work as well, and they used it for an immunodeficiency disease, and 5 patients that were in the experiment actually got cancer from it. So that's why most people, when they think of genetic modifications, they think of in vitro and doing it as baby. And the pros of genetic modifications are, as far as diseases go, being able to fix that. No more medicines for people. They don't have to worry about taking all of these pills or putting anything inside of them, because people would either be born without the disease, if it was a genetic thing, or born without a disposition for the disease. You can actually get tested now and see which genes. I think they have about 200 that you can check to see if you are born with a disposition for the disease. So like for diabetes or something like that. So you can actually, like if you have a history of it in your family, you can see if you have the gene that would give you a disposition for it, so that you can presumably live your life differently in order to not get it. This is just a chart I found on some of the diseases, especially in the U.S., that we have issues with, which would be able to, well, at least with gene therapy, you could eventually cut them out of society. Another thing is mental illness, like things like ADHD or bipolar or schizophrenia. Those are also have been linked to genetics, and they would also be something that you could prevent or fix with gene therapy. Another thing that I liked a lot was the genetic diversity aspect of it, which genetic diversity, it allows a society to adapt to change, and the more variation you have in a society, the better able they are to adapt to change. And seeing as our society changes so quickly, and even in 100 years, the environment changes, the things we do, the things we surround ourselves with, like internet or cell phones, people are getting more cancer more easily, we're eating more junk food, we're getting heart disease more easily. Genetic variations help people to be able to prevent it through like evolution, microevolution, being born with different genes, and that gene, of course, is the one that is able to produce offspring. Another thing is genetic diversity would help without actually putting in things like strength or IQ. Genetic diversity, we already go up every since the 1920s, I believe. The IQ has risen about 20 points. Not just because they were drilling idiots, but because what we do now is more focused on what we call cognitive resources. So the jobs we have are going from manufacturing jobs in factories, and they're changing the things that use your cognitive resources when you're in the workplace. So you things like inventing or using more math and more science in the workplace. as far as the power play that people are worried about, one of the cons, a lot of people are worried about society and the fact that they play God when you do in vitro, or when you, even in the gene therapy, being able to change what God has given us. And, yeah, science being God. One of the problems that a lot of people see is with society being in charge of what we choose for our children is how they would grow up or what we would choose. Like this shows just the change, like since, I think that's the 80s or 90s to today, like just the change from like 20 years in what people think is popular or cool to what they would choose for their children would change dramatically. And society has a strong influence in what we feel about ourselves, and it would have a strong influence in how we feel about what we want for our children. Another problem is in places like China, where boys are favored over girls, people see an issue with what would happen if they chose to have more boys than girls, like how it would affect the population as a whole. Another thing is, like in the U.S., we favor athletes, we favor sports, and one of the things that might happen is us putting such a strong emphasis on things like sports or strength or height, and not being able to focus on IQ and how it would affect different societies differently. As far as parents, they already do have a huge role in the effect of their genes in the children over who they choose to be their spouse when they get married. Yeah, that's marriage this morning. Who they choose to be their spouse. A lot of times when people look at who they want to marry, one of the problems is, like they say, anyone who's ever been rejected for a date has been the victim of genetics, choosing genetics for your child. Because if you see somebody who's unattractive, you don't want those genes for your child. Same-sex or same-race marriages also have a role in this, because for a long time that's what the standard was you marry inside your same racial culture. And doing that, now there's a lot more mixed culture marriages, and that has changed the genetic diversity as well. Also, there's sperm banks. People being able to choose the sperm for their baby is already like genetic testing, or being able to choose the genetics. And being able to choose the genetics for your child is about the same as what would happen with genetic testing, being able to go through and choose things for your child. And then also, parents are teachers for their children already, and they choose things like how they grow up, what they eat, what they read, how they spend their time, or even what they listen to. And in conclusion, I just want to say that although genetic testing is far off in the future, people need to keep an open mind about it now, because even though it is in the future, it is something that is going to be happening.
It's just like where I think it has to do with where you can test for certain diseases.
Oh, is that the one where they're trying to get all the people to donate their, not only their genetic material, but their habits and their family history?
Yeah, and they go through and they do like the ACG, like they go through and name all the...
Yeah, they're trying to figure out what all the different things are, so they can tell if you're going to be able to...
Where the mutations are.
Yeah. Yeah, heard about that. Anyone else? Come here.
Well, I have a question. Is it just limited to babies, or could you do someone that's like then in their 20s?
That's what the gene therapy is for.
Okay.
You can actually, they're doing that, like I said, for the immunodeficiency disease. You're able to change genes of an adult, but also genes don't change from when you're a baby to when you are an adult.
Right.
So you could do it. I don't think they would do it on children, just because it is such a risky thing. I mean, like I said, 5 people out of the experiment got cancer when they were trying to just cure an immunodeficiency disease. But yeah, the gene therapy is something you can do on adults.
And then are the diseases and like psychological issues limited to what you can do, or eventually will it be anything?
Well, they're still working on figuring out how much of it is hormone-based, how much of it can be cured with pills, and then how much of it is based on
Okay.
your genetics, so. Yeah.
Is there any specific ages that parents can do that gene therapy? Like
The gene therapy?
Mhm.
The only study I found was on adults, it wasn't on children. But that's because it's still being experimented with, so I don't think they want to start experimenting with children. Although I know that they have stuff they do with leukemia, so I just didn't find a study on
They
it.
have any like critical period
A critical period?
of ages, like not over 40 years old or something?
Well, like I said, I didn't find a study for it.
Okay.
So I don't know if they're like looking for between this age and this age. Eventually, I assume they would be working for all ages because it's something that they're trying to get to be able to cure any disease. So, like I said, it's not very stable and it doesn't always work.
So they're still trying to perfect it too, so it's, you don't want to hurt
It's
people.
really no better than the in vitro. It's actually, the in vitro works a lot better if you're trying to get certain genetics.
So do you think there's a possibility of, old age, like, can you fix that?
Curing old age?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
old age is the body falling apart. It's not a disease.
right,
I mean, they could presumably fix, like, if you had a failing kidney, they could presumably do something about it. But, I mean, the stages, like, right now, all they're doing is experimenting on animals with the in vitro. The gene therapy, all they're doing is experimenting with diseases. Because of old age being, I mean, it is genetics. Like, some people do get gray hair faster than others. They can fix something like that, but I don't know about
as far as
curing old age, curing death.
creakiness in your bones and, you know.
I don't know if achiness in your bones is a medical diagnosis.
But you can fix like the osteoporosis maybe.
Well,
One day.
osteoporosis,
Yeah.
I just mean, like, I don't think curing death is what they're looking at with this. But who knows, in the next 10 years, technology is going to change dramatically. We don't know what they're going to be doing with
I got
it. I'm looking at you.
Do you see anything of the gene, like, so if they fix the gene therapy and then someone has kids, is that like part of their DNA now? Do you know if that is like, so then if they have kids, then their kids have a less risk of it, or are they still?
Because what they're doing is going in and fixing the damaged genes. Like if somebody that has schizophrenia, their child has a higher chance of getting schizophrenia. If they've already had the child, of course, it's too late. But once they fix the genes, I believe that it means that it's in their genetic code. So they pass on the cured DNA, which is what people have an issue with the in vitro, is being born with this trait. Is it going to get passed on to the children? I think with the gene therapy, it would get passed on, but I don't know if, the study I read was just about the gene therapy itself. It wasn't about the effects on the children.
And then do you think that with in vitro that they will be, like, I read Brave New World, I think.
Yeah.
Do you think that they'll be able to do that, like, they just create them in like the tubes and then they put them in, like, their
Well, the
incubator?
problem with Brave New World was that they were doing advanced things like stunting growth at a certain stage and giving them this chemical at this stage to make them this way. I don't think that, well, right now, I think we still have too much humanity to want to treat them an object instead of a human being. And also what they're looking at is betterment of society as a whole, not being able to stunt growth. Although I know you're asking if they can do it like a mass batch.
Yeah.
But I think what they're still trying to do is, they're trying to have it like design baby. So if you go into the clinic, instead of, like going into a sperm bank, you're able to choose a donor based off, oh, well, he went to Harvard, so I want my child to do that. I think that's what they're trying to do is, like, you know, go through a selection on the screen and be like, I want 6'2", I want blue eyes, and I want this hair. I think we already have an issue with overpopulation, so I don't see them doing mass production of blue-eyed blonde-haired babies. Is that it?
All right, thank you, Brandy.